The dropship broke through the stratosphere with a muted roar, its dark hull searing against the pale orange sky of Vellis 3. Inside, 6 elite soldiers of the Galactic Union lounged in zero-G harnesses, their armor glinting under low cabin lights. They were the apex of 25 star systems, trained assassins, tactical savants, veterans of campaigns that had spanned continents and moons. And yet, in that cramped bay, they laughed. "Did you hear what Commander said?" hissed Velok, a bipedal reptilian with ridged scales and a scarred mandible. A human sniper. One. Still active, like some ghost story. Yorin, the hulking Archon squad leader, chuckled, his voice like gravel dragged through metal. These humans, always clinging to primitive tactics, one rifle and dirt in their mouths, thinking they're predators. The others joined in. Jex, whose cybernetic eyes flickered with data, mockingly raised a hand to his forehead like a visor. What's next? Arrows and smoke signals. It's no wonder they lost the war. Sergeant Kale, the only non-alien among them, genetically uplifted from a once-human colony and now loyal to Union, stayed silent. His golden irises betrayed no emotion, but he adjusted his rifle with a care that bordered on reverence. He had heard the stories too. He had read the reports buried beneath official victories. Something had survived here after the last human withdrawal. Vellis 3 had been declared pacified 6 months ago, after the Union's final push routed the last pockets of human resistance. The planet was a strategic outpost, a stepping stone toward the inner human colonies. But a few supply lines had gone dark in recent weeks. Drones failed to return. Recon teams vanished without distress calls. Union command, naturally, chalked it up to residual environmental hazards. Storms, unstable terrain. But as a formality, they sent in the 6. The dropship landed with surgical precision on the ridge overlooking the valley base. The ramp hissed open. Red dust swept across armored boots as the team fanned out. The landscape was quiet. Too quiet. Thermals. Yorin barked. "Clear," said Jex. No motion in a 3-click radius. We're alone. They weren't. Above them, hidden among the crags of a ruined comms tower, the sniper adjusted his scope. His breath was measured, almost slow. Even through the mask that filtered dust in the air, his concentration was palpable. He watched them disembark with clinical precision. 6 targets. One especially arrogant. The Archon with the commander's insignia. He didn't fire. Not yet. He studied. Below, the squad secured the perimeter. Velok planted motion sensors. Arsha, a 4-armed, feline humanoid, deployed an aerial recon drone, which buzzed skyward like a metal wasp. "Reinforce the ridge," Yorin ordered. "We'll use the tower ruins as overwatch. I want eyes in every direction." "I thought this was a cleanup op," Velok muttered. "We're treating ghosts like they're warlords." "They called this human a confirmed hazard in the briefing," Jex said with a smirk. "That's Union code for someone embarrassed command." Kale knelt near the old blast crater at the tower's base. Scorch marks. Recent, as if a transport had landed or taken off. He ran a gloved finger through the ash. "This crater's not 6 months old," he murmured. Yorin strode over. "What are you saying?" Kale hesitated, then stood. "Someone's been using the site. Recently, within the last 3 weeks. Possibly less. Impossible. We've had orbital scans on this place for months. No heat signatures, no movement, no power signatures. Maybe someone knows how to hide from scans," Kale said. He looked toward the cliffs. "Or they know how we look for them." Yorin scoffed. "One man cannot outwit orbital surveillance." Kale didn't answer. He was already watching the skies. The drone was still circling. That was good. The sniper tracked the drone through his secondary lens. It moved with predictable patterns. Sweeping arcs, shallow banks, fixed altitude. He noted its moments of delay between pings. Not military grade. That gave him a margin. He rotated his rifle 90 degrees and engaged a timed micropulse emitter. The drone faltered mid-flight, stuttered, then resumed. The onboard AI wouldn't register the loss of a millisecond, but the data Relay now had a hole. It was enough. Back on the ground, Arshaw frowned. Drone hiccuped. Probably dust interference. Noted, said Urin. We deploy in 30. Tight formation. Nightfall in 6 hours. You think he'll show? Velok asked, running a claw over his plasma carbine. I hope he does, Urin said, turning toward the tower. I want to meet the human who thinks he's better than us. Behind his visor, Kale narrowed his eyes. He had met a few humans who were better than them, and most of them were dead. The ones still alive were worse. From his perch, the sniper watched the squad vanish into the tower's upper floors. He knew their type, tactical elite, confident in their numbers, their gear, their shared belief in superiority. They always underestimated patience. Discipline, silence. He adjusted the scope, locked onto Urin's shoulder. A half-click shot. Easy almost. Not yet. Let them settle in. He whispered to himself, almost inaudibly, welcome to the hunt. And then he waited. The first shot came at dawn. No warning. No muzzle flash. No sonic boom. Just a sharp, wet impact as Velok's head jerked back, a blossom of dark green blood fanning out behind him. His body slumped forward into the dust, his talons still curled around a half-eaten ration bar. For a heartbeat, the squad froze. Then chaos erupted. Sniper. Arshaw hissed, diving for cover behind a fractured support pillar. Her lower arms activated her shielding module, while the upper two clawed for her sidearm. Direction? Urin barked, crouching low and scanning the ridge with his ocular implants. Find the shot vector. Analyzing, Jex muttered, his data lenses flickering. No heat, no reflection, no ballistic trail, nothing. Kale, already behind cover, didn't move. His pulse was steady. His instincts flared, not fear, not surprise, but recognition. That shot hadn't been a kill. It had been a statement. The sniper shifted slightly in his perch. He had calculated the shot in advance. 580 meters crosswind, minor elevation change, Velok's predictable breakfast habits. 1 target down. 5 to go. He took his time breaking down the rifle, replacing components, erasing micro-traces. They'd be scrambling now, burning energy, breaking formation. Predictable. Back on the ground, the Union squad fanned out. Urin barked orders over encrypted comms, calling for elevated scans, drone sweeps, and triangulation algorithms. But the tower's ruinous geometry worked against them. Lines of sight were broken, vantage points compromised. Their tech gave them information, but not direction. And in that sliver of uncertainty, paranoia bloomed. He's using legacy tactics, Arshaw growled. Her voice clipped as she moved along the second-floor corridor. Thermal dampened, kinetic weapon. No EM flare. A railgun? Jex asked. No. Something older. Pre-energy era. Urin grunted. He's playing at ghosts and shadows. Let's flush him out. They activated flare drones. Dozens of them. Miniature fireflies of light and sound, scattering across the ridge in unpredictable patterns. They threw shadows against every rock and crevice, but none revealed the shooter. Kale tracked their motion with a soldier's detachment. He admired the effort, but it was wasted. This wasn't a game of technology. It was one of patience. Another shot cracked a morning. Jex dropped mid-sentence, a cauterized hole through his neck. His legs twitched as he toppled, data lenses glowing dimly. His armor systems buzzed in confusion before going dark. 2 down. Urin slammed a gauntlet into the nearest wall. He's inside the perimeter. He's not, Kale said, stepping out from behind cover. Urin turned. Explain. Kale's tone was even. He's not moving. He's playing a psychological game. 2 kills clean, no follow-through. He wants us unstable. Mission priority has changed, Urin said, pulling up a tactical map. We locate and neutralize this threat. Use full ordnance. No restraints. Aresh's voice cracked through comms. Then we start the ridge. He must be close enough for manual targeting. I'll take a recon team and sweep. No teams, Kale interrupted. That's what he wants. To divide us. The moment we split, He starts isolating. Yoren's eyes narrowed. You seem to know a lot about how he thinks. I know humans, Kale replied. Real ones, not civilians, not colonial defectors. The old kind, the kind bred for long wars and quiet deaths. He's just a man, Yoren snapped. Kale didn't answer. There were words he could have used, legends, death rate statistics, the whispered codename Ghostlands. But he didn't need to. The truth was revealing itself, one corpse at a time. Above them, the sniper relocated. Slowly, deliberately. He never crossed open ground, never left a trace. His exosuit blended perfectly with the charred metal and rust-stained stone. His mask filtered heat. His rifle bore no serial number, no manufacturer tag. It was a one-of-a-kind relic, built for this one thing. Erasure. He picked his third target. The feline, Arsha. She was methodical, tactical, too smart to break formation, but fast enough to respond poorly under stress. He waited. She moved into his trap, an exposed outcropping she thought was cover. He fired. The shot clipped her shoulder, not fatal, but enough to shatter the bone and rupture her shield generator. She shrieked as sparks burst across her armor. Her limbs convulsed, and she dropped behind cover, gasping, bleeding. Contact, she shouted. I'm hit. Yoren cursed. Kale position? Kale's voice was cold. 70 degrees northeast. Half a click, but don't go after him. I'm not asking for advice, Yoren growled. Kale stepped in his path. If you charge that ridge, he'll drop you before your second foot lands. He's not just shooting. He's measuring. Each response, each tactic were being studied. You're afraid? Yoren accused. I'm alive, Kale said. Yoren pushed past him. I'm ending this. He activated his kinetic shield, leapt from the tower, and sprinted across the scorched clearing toward the ridge. The air crackled around him as his shield distorted space, repelling debris and minor projectiles. He felt invincible. For 10 steps. The sniper watched him come. He calculated the shield's harmonic frequency, adjusted the round velocity and alloy mix, factored wind resistance and armor integrity. He fired. The round pierced the shield just as it cycled its field, a microscopic blind spot in its wave pattern. The slug struck Yoren in the hip joint, shattering bone and collapsing his left leg. He crashed into the dirt with a roar, scrambling for cover as dust swallowed him whole. The squad fell silent. Kale moved to the edge of the tower and stared out across the barren landscape. The sun was climbing now, casting long, accusatory shadows. They weren't the hunters anymore. They were prey, isolated, predictable, arrogant. Behind Kale, Arsha groaned and clutched her arm. Yoren was dragging himself behind cover, cursing into his comms. Jex and Velok were dead. The drone network was useless. The sniper was still out there, watching, waiting. Kale exhaled, slow and steady. The ghost had returned, and it wasn't just vengeance. It was art. Night fell with a silence that felt deliberate, like the planet itself had chosen to hold its breath. The wind curled around broken structures in the ruins, whispering through fractured alloy and scorched stone, but offered no comfort. The remaining 3 members of the squad huddled inside the crumbling tower, shadows thick around them, tension strangling every word. Yoren lay against a wall, teeth clenched against the pain of his shattered leg. His armor's internal med packs had sealed the wound, but the damage was structural, irreparable without field surgery. Still, he barked orders through gritted teeth, holding on to command like a drowning man clutches rope. We're not dying here, he hissed. He's one man, flesh and blood. We will outlast him. Arsha didn't answer. Her shoulder was burned black where the sniper's round had kissed bone. She crouched near the doorway, her 4 arms limp against her sides, breath shallow. The shield generator across her chest was a melted husk. She didn't even bother removing it. Her eyes, feline and usually sharp, stared out into the dark with haunted stillness. Kale was the only one who moved freely. He paced the chamber like a caged animal, every step calculated. He scanned the darkness beyond the tower with a quiet reverence, not searching for movement, but for intent. He knew the sniper was watching them, even now, the same way a lion studies wounded prey before the final pounce. He's not rushing, Kale said quietly. He has no need to. Every moment we hesitate, he grows stronger. Yorin scoffed. What's he waiting for? We're boxed in. He's not after kills anymore, Kale replied. He's breaking us, one thought at a time. As if summoned, a soft click echoed from the stairwell. All three froze. A tiny object rolled into the center of the chamber, a disc, matte black, no markings. Kale stepped forward and slowly turned it over. A projection blinked to life, a crude hologram, flickering blue, grainy. It was a face. Human, male, young ones, maybe, but the eyes were hollow. The skin bore the roughened texture of years in harsh climates. And beneath the visual, a message began to play, distorted but unmistakably deliberate. You train for dominance. I train for survival. We are not the same. Then it looped. Yorin snarled and smashed the disc under his fist. He's playing games. Kale didn't move. He wants us to see him, not as a man, as something more. Arshaw finally spoke, her voice a dry rasp. He was waiting for us before we landed. Kale nodded. He watched the approach, predicted our route, measured our habits before we ever stepped off the dropship. He couldn't have known. Yorin began, then faltered. The truth was already coiled around them. Outside, somewhere beyond the rusted horizon, the sniper lay prone in the cold earth. He watched through a scope as the disc winked out. It wasn't meant to frighten them. It was a mirror. He needed them to see what had hunted them, needed them to understand the futility. That was part of the kill. He watched Kale especially, the one who hadn't broken. Not yet. Back inside, Kale adjusted his weapon and took a knee near the open side of the chamber. His mind was silent, focused, but memories stirred. There were only a few men left who knew how to kill like this. Earthborn, raised in the last continental conflicts before the Great Evacuation. They were ghosts by now, or legends. He'd read a name once, a sniper from Earth's Eurasian dead zones, deployed alone behind enemy lines for 18 months. Unconfirmed kill count, 212. Mission status, never extracted. Final report classified. The code name was burned into his mind. Ash-9. Kale's voice was low. I think I know who he is. Yorin glanced over. You recognize him? No, but I recognize his method. It's not just warfare, it's ritual. He's cleansing the battlefield. Every bullet is a sentence. Every delay, a punishment. You're saying he's doing this for philosophy? No, Kale said. For precision. As if to punctuate the thought, another noise rippled through the air. Not a gunshot, but a dull clang. They turned toward the source. The outer hallway. One of their motion sensors, dropped earlier in haste, now hung from a doorway beam. Swaying like a pendulum, Arshaw pointed her weapon, her breathing sharp. He's in the building. No, Kale said. He wants us to think he is. Kale stood and moved the door with deliberate calm. He reached up, steadied the swinging sensor, and stopped its motion. Silence returned. The sniper wasn't inside, but he had moved closer. He's feeding us noise, Kale murmured, teaching us to flinch. Yorin tried to rise, winced, and sank back. His voice was quieter now. What do we do? We survived the night, Kale replied. Then what? Kale stared out across the ridgeline, into a darkness that didn't feel empty. He couldn't see the sniper, but he felt him, the way one apex predator feels another in the long grass. Then I hunt him. Behind Kale, Arshaw lowered her weapon slightly. In her eyes, something shifted, not hope, not resolve. Something older. A predator's recognition threat. Of legacy. The tower fell still again. Beyond it, in the cold silence, the sniper listened and smiled. The first light of dawn peeled across the horizon, staining the ruined world in the pale hues of steel and fire. Smoke curled lazily through the fractured cityscape. Ghosts of 1,000 wars passed, drifting through rubble and time. The sniper remained motionless, entombed within the earth's skin, heartbeat slow, eyes alert. This moment, the edge between night and day, was his domain. Transition, vulnerability, pattern break. Below, in the crumbling tower, Cale stirred. He hadn't slept. Sleep was a liability. Instead, he knelt in stillness, his mind carving through every moment of the last day. Patterns, terrain, rhythms. He was no sniper, not like the Ghost, but he was a tactician, forged in siege, survival, and insurgency. And he understood one truth. The longer the enemy dictated tempo, the closer death came. Arsha had passed into a medicated sleep. Her wounds had gone septic despite internal purification fields. She was fading. Yorin, stubborn and wired with painkillers, had managed to construct a crude motion trap system to the tower's lower levels. Barely functional, but enough to provide warning. Still, morale was gone. Fatigue gnawed at sanity. Even their equipment, once symbols of superiority, now felt ornamental. Cale rose and checked his weapon. No more drones. No heavy munitions. 3 mags, 2 grenades, 1 combat knife. His armor was scuffed and powered down to avoid emissions. He adjusted the optics and stepped into the stairwell. Without a word, Yorin watched him go. You won't find him. I don't need to, Cale replied, voice low. I just need him to see me. He slipped through the corridors like a shadow in his own right, moving with calculated exposure. He made sure to step into shafts of light, brush against reflective surfaces, leave footprints on disturbed soil. He wanted the sniper to know, not to mistake his approach as blunder or bait, but as declaration. From the hill, Ash 9 did see him. Through the scope, Cale's silhouette walked with purpose, eyes never scanning like prey. He knew the terrain was a sniper's canvas, but Cale stepped onto it like a rival artist. Ash 9 tracked his movement, finger resting on the trigger. He did not fire. Instead, he dismantled his rifle with the fluid grace of long habit, segment by segment, folding it into his rucksack. Then he stood, stretched his limbs, and began to descend. Cale moved toward the heart of the city, where shattered monoliths tilted like broken teeth and silence was thick enough to drown in. This wasn't a trap. This was communion. He reached a fallen spire, once a broadcast tower, now nothing more than twisted steel and jagged glass, and waited. He didn't speak, didn't call out. He knew the sniper wasn't afraid of voice, only certainty. Footsteps crunched behind him, deliberate and slow. Cale turned. The man standing 20 meters away wore armor, so dust caked it, blended with the earth. His mask was stripped back to reveal a face chiseled by war and wind. A single red lens over one eye flickered with soft data. The other was human, pale, calm. They regarded each other in silence. Ash 9 broke it first. You knew I wouldn't shoot. Cale nodded. Because this isn't about the mission anymore. Ash 9's lip twitched, something between amusement and approval. You think you've understood me. I don't have to, Cale replied, only to accept what you are. Ash 9 stepped forward, not threatening, but without hesitation. I watched your squad. Arrogant, loud, over-reliant on tech. You weren't supposed to survive. I didn't come to survive, Cale said. I came to learn. Something shifted behind Ash 9's eyes. Not weakness, but curiosity. I know your name, Cale said, or the name they gave you. Ash 9, the last phantom. The older man didn't deny it, and yet you walked toward me. Cale met his gaze. Because I wanted you to see one thing you weren't looking for. Ash 9 tilted his head slightly. What's that? Cale slowly lifted his hand and dropped a small transmitter from his palm. It hit the ground with a soft click. The light on its face was green. Ash 9 stared. You brought a beacon. I brought a choice. In the distance, the faint hum of a dropship stirred the air. It wasn't close, still minutes away, but it was coming. Ash 9 looked back at Cale, unreadable. You can disappear, Cale said. Fade back into legend. Or you can face what's left of the world you abandoned. You've proven what you are, but what you become, that's still open. Ash 9 stared at the device, then past it, to the dying tower where 2 soldiers clung to life, Enemies, yes, but no longer threats. Then he looked at Kale. You're not like the others. I'm not trying to be. A long silence passed. Finally, Ash 9 turned. I'll leave before the ship lands. Kale didn't stop him. The sniper walked without sound, fading into smoke and sun, vanishing not with fear, but with intent. Kale watched until he was gone. Only then did he return to the tower. When the dropship landed, the survivors were silent. No words were exchanged as medics lifted Yorin and Arshaw into the hold. Kale climbed aboard last, a shadow of the man who had first deployed. The debrief officer asked no questions. There was no explanation that mattered. As the ship lifted into the sky, Kale looked down one last time at the ruin, the ridge, the shape of the battlefield that had become a graveyard for pride. He didn't know if he'd see Ash 9 again. He suspected he wouldn't. But he knew the legend wouldn't die in silence. Not anymore.